Good evening, Bearcats. This is 5.5 Pre-AP Extension. These are three sets of formulas that are not on our typical identity page, but we do use them in Pre-AP, and they are also used in calculus. So I do want to expose you to them, an example of each, an example for you to work, and I think that you will see something on your test. All right, I want to make a note before we get started, just to extend something that will help us in a few minutes. So just note the extension or the manipulation of these formulas. So notice if we have cosine squared x, that it's going to equal, apologize, I'm going to erase something real quick. I don't want squared x. Okay, sorry, if we have cosine 2x, then that would equal 1 plus, and instead of cosine 2u, it's cosine, it would be 1 plus cosine, 2u over 2, which is just right over here to the left. Now, I want you to extend that or manipulate that. If we had cosine 4x, it would be, think of this as 2 times 2x. I guess that would help you. Then it would be 1 plus cosine, instead of 2u, it'd be 2 times 2u, which would be 4x, or instead of u, 4x, sorry, over 2. I'm using my x's up. So I just want you to note that. That's just a little important thing that we're going to see come up in an equation here soon. All right, let's try our first example using our power reducing formulas. All right, we're going to, on our first example using power reducing formulas, we're going to rewrite sine to the fourth x as a sum of first powers of the cosines. Okay, so we want to use cosines of multiple angles. So looking at our formulas, we have sine squared x equals 1 minus cosine squared x over 2. So this time we have, all right, we have sine to the fourth x, and that we're going to rewrite as sine squared x all to the second power. All right, so now we base that on, we just rewrote our formula. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take the sine squared x and use our formula, which would be 1 minus cosine, 2x, sorry about that, 1 minus cosine 2x over 2. Okay, that comes from our power reducing formula, and then we have to put that square on the outside. The next thing we're going to do is the square applies to the top and the bottom, so I'm going to write them separate, 1 minus cosine 2x squared over 2 squared. And we get, if you square a binomial, remember the shortcut, we square the first term, which would be 1. We multiply through 1 times negative cosine 2x times 2, so negative 2 cosine 2x. And then we would square the second term, cosine 2x squared, 2x, and we square that, we would get positive cosine squared 2x. And then 2 squared at the bottom would be 4. All right, let's continue this problem, and now we're just down to algebra manipulation. All right, we could rewrite this. I'm going to do that right up here. We could rewrite this as 1/4. Extract this denominator, so we could write this as 1/4 times 1 minus 2 cosine 2x plus cosine squared 2x. Okay, hopefully you followed that. I just pulled out the denominator. And now we're going to use our power reducing formula to reduce the squared term up here, this cosine squared. So we're going to have to be careful. There's a lot of algebra here. We may have to go to another page. I'm going to try to squeeze it on here. So we've got 1/4 times 1 minus 2 cosine squared, or cosine 2x plus. And we're going to rewrite this using the formula for cosine, which would be 1 plus cosine, and remember it's squared, so it would be 4x. Remember I showed you this little manipulation a while ago, over 2. All right, now let's go ahead and distribute through our what is that? Oh, our 1/4. So if we distribute through our 1/4, we're going to get 1/4 minus 2 over 4 would be 1/2 cosine 2x. And then the 2 and the 4 would be give us 1/8. So plus 1/8. And then 1/4 times the cosine 4x over 2 would give us plus 1/8 cosine 4x. You may need to pause just a minute and actually physically yourself work through the distributing of the 1/4. I kind of shortcutted this last part here, so if you need to see that, you might want to see that again. All right, so now we've gotten to there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to combine like terms. We have a 1/4 and we have an 1/8. So a 1/4 and 8 gives me 3/8 minus 1/2 cosine 2x plus 1, oops, not that 1/8, we wanted that 1/8, plus 1/8 cosine 4x. All right, and the last thing we're going to do is we're going to factor out the 1/8. So if we take out 1/8, and this is all algebraic at this point, we're going to end up with 1/8 times, it would be times 3 to get 3/8, so 3 minus, and then 1/8 times 1/2 would be 4 cosine 2x plus the 1/8 would go away, cosine 4x. And now we have written or rewritten sine to the 4th power as a sum of first powers. In other words, all of these they're not squared or cubes, or they're down now to just single powers. And that was important. I think you'll find in calculus that has something to do with derivatives. All right, I want you to try a problem now, so I'm going to give you that problem. So you try a similar example. I want you to try cosine to the 4th x. Okay, work that out on your own, and then tomorrow I'll give you the answer when you get to class, and we'll see how you did. All right, let's move on to the next set of formulas. Okay, you're going to want to pause this page because I'm not going to take the time to go through every formula. These are our product to sum formulas, and there are 4 of them listed here. If we have a product, we're going from product, meaning from multiplication to a sum to addition or subtraction. So we've got multiplication of sine u and sine v, and we end up with a subtraction. Or cosine u, cosine v, we end up with addition. Sine u, cosine, addition, cosine and sine, and we end up with subtraction. So these are formulas just like we had before where you'll substitute into them. We'll talk a little bit more about this later in the week and decide, you know, how important these are to you. But they are important for your future because you use them in calculus. You can, wrote this down right here. We use in calculus to evaluate integrals involving products of sine and cosine of 2 different angles. So this will come up again. So make sure you pause and write them down, and then we're going to have them in front of you while we work our next example. So you pause, I'll be right here, and we'll work an example together. All right, you're going to need to be looking at your formulas, and we're going to try this problem right here. We're going to rewrite the product of cosine 5x and sine 4x as a sum or difference. So we've got cosine times sine, so we're going to use that formula. So we're going to plug in. We're going to have our equation is cosine 5x sine times sine 4x, and we're going to plug into our formula. So that's going to be 1/2 sine, it'll be 5x plus 4x, minus sine 5x minus 4x, and then we're going to simplify. So the rest of this is algebraic. So we're going to keep the 1/2 for right now, and we're going to end up with sine 5x plus 4x would be sine of 9x, minus sine of 5x minus 4x would be sine of x. And then we're going to distribute through our 1/2. So our final answer would be 1/2 sine 9x minus 1/2 sine x. And now we've gone from product to subtraction into a difference in this case. All right, now you try this problem. I want you to rewrite sine 5x cosine 3x as a sum or difference. And tomorrow then, I will look for this in your notes, and then tomorrow we will work that, and we'll make sure that you have the right answer. All right, pause and work that, and then you'll come back and we'll do our last set of formulas. All right, now this next is our sum to product. So before we did product, so we did multiplying to addition or subtraction, and now we're going to go sum to product, so we're going to do addition or subtraction into multiplication. So let's go ahead and write these down. You'll want to pause the screen for a minute and make sure you have them written down. If you prefer, if my writing you can't see something, you can go to the textbook. They're in the textbook. They're in little blue boxes in your textbook. You can take a look at them there as well. Now we're going to go on to our last example for tonight. Yippee! All right, here's our last example. We want to find the exact value of cosine 195 plus cosine 105. So we're going to plug into our formula. So we have cosine, I'm going to write this out again, cosine 195 plus cosine 105, and that equals. And we're going to look at our formulas, and we're going to decide on the cosine plus cosine, which is the third one on there, and we're going to have 2 cosine, and we have 195 plus 105 divided by 2 times cosine 195 minus 105 divided by 2. All right, let's just do a little reducing here. So we have 2 cosine 195 plus 105 divided by 2 will be 150 degrees. And we have cosine over here, 195 minus 105 divided by 2 will be 45 degrees. All right, I'm going to do something. I'm going to use my reference angles and stuff. So I'm going to come over here because some of you were getting a little confused in class today about this. This is going to be 2 times, and we're going to figure out what cosine 150 is. We know 150 is in the second quadrant, and we know that cosine in the second quadrant is negative. So I'm just going to set this up as 2 over 1, and I'm going to set this up as a negative. And then I'm going to think I'm at 150. 150, my reference angle to 180 would be 30. I've already determined that it was negative, so I'm just going to use my reference angle now. So at 30 degrees, cosine would be the square root of 3 over 2. And if you are still confused or I went too quick on that, then you need to stop, think about it, and if you're still confused, you need to ask me specifically for us to take a look at it together in class. All right, the next thing we're going to do cosine 45. That's easy. You know the value of cosine at 45 degrees is the square root of 2 over 2. So that was pretty easy. And now it just becomes multiplication. So I'm going to go 2 times negative square root of 3 times the square root of 2. Square root of 3 times the square root of 2 is the square root of 6. Negative, so we would have negative 2 square roots of 6 over 1 times 2, which is 4. Then we're going to reduce this 2 and this 4, and we're going to end up with negative square root of 6 over 2, and that's our answer. All right, I want you to try the following example. You can pause for a second and look at this, and then I want you to move on to the last page and try the following example. So I want you to try. I want you to find the exact value of sine 195 degrees plus sine 105 degrees, using that process, using the sum to product formulas. All right, I hope that is a good evening for you, and I hope to see you tomorrow. And Mr. Hayes, I know you're on a trip, so I hope you have a fabulous time. And anybody else I don't see tomorrow, I hope you have a nice spring break. And if I see you, this will be my last video before spring break, so I will tell you to have a very safe one, and I look forward to having you all back in your seats on Monday afterwards, safe and sound. Have a great one, get some rest, and have some fun. All right, good night, Bearcats.